Hey guys, Zane here with another One Take review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Soccer Mommy album, Sometimes Forever. Sometimes Forever is the latest studio album from indie pop slash rock artist Soccer Mommy. While these Soccer Mommy projects have been consistently great over time, I don't think I can really say that I've ever truly been blown away by any of them either, and it seems like the latest album to come from the Soccer Mommy name definitely wants to change that. Sophie Allison, the woman behind the Soccer Mommy project, uses this record as a means of exploring the territory of dream pop, which ultimately results in an album that is perhaps the most hypnotic we've ever seen from her. Sometimes Forever definitely succeeds in this sort of dreamlike atmosphere as it's very charming, very endearing overall, very emotional, and its application never feels inappropriate or unneeded, which is definitely the most important thing here. It doesn't matter how great your concept is, if you put too much dreamlike ambience around it, it can easily just become a muddy and murky mess that really ultimately serves no purpose in the grand scheme of the record overall, but thankfully Soccer Mommy does not succumb to this issue. It's obvious that Allison knew where she wanted to put these more dreamy passages and where she wanted to be a bit more straightforward and neutral in terms of dreamlike atmosphere, and it shows on the album. However, don't let that imply that Sometimes Forever is sort of a different record for the Soccer Mommy name. It definitely feels like previous efforts. The memorable and generally very powerful melodies and hooks of previous Soccer Mommy albums are still here, as well as the very strong, albeit somewhat predictable writing. However, the importance of these previously established themes and aspects of Soccer Mommy's music is heavily reliant on how successful these new influences are. The incorporation of these newer influences along with the previously established influences results in something that ultimately feels like what is, at least so far, the truest form of Sophie Allison's music. Considering she, similar to a lot of her other indie pop music peers, heavily defines herself by the emotion and self-expression that she puts into her music, that's definitely a pretty major feat overall. Sometimes Forever also feels like a very singular piece, generally speaking, which is unexpected but definitely pleasant. I'm not trying to say that this sounded like a bad idea on paper, it just doesn't seem like something that the Soccer Mommy project would ultimately result in, a record that feels like it needs to be listened to from front to back to truly experience it in full repeatedly over and over again, but somehow the latest album from the project does. Now, that being said, pretty much every song here has some sense of individuality to it that makes it easy to cherry pick songs as well, which is great because if you just want to, casually listen to the album or sort of just skim through it if you are unfamiliar with the work of Soccer Mommy, then that's definitely something you can do as well. It's not necessarily something that's like if you're not listening to this from front to back every time you listen to it, you're listening to it wrong. It's not like that at all, but it's definitely something that I personally would highly recommend, as a lot of this record is sort of a continuous emotional experience that can only be truly experienced if you're hearing it from beginning to end in one sitting. All I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of overarching musical tones and themes that sort of, I don't want to say repeat themselves, but definitely continue throughout the entirety of the record that make me want to implore you to listen to this album from front to back the first time that you listen to it, rather than just listen to individual songs and then put them on your playlists. Definitely do that afterwards, because there is a sense of, again, that individualism that every record like this kind of needs to some extent at least, but it is an album that's an emotional journey, to say the least. And like any good journey, it should probably be experienced in one go rather than it being broken up, because there just is significantly less impact to it otherwise. So overall, Sometimes Forever is actually pretty great. As I said at the beginning of this review, I wasn't really expecting to absolutely adore this like I actually do, just because previous Soccer Mommy efforts, while impressive, have never really truly just, blown my socks off, so to speak, or anything like that, but Sometimes Forever, my socks are gone. Sophie Allison is as great of a musician as she ever has been, and these newer influences of sort of dream pop and psychedelic pop that she's incorporating are extremely welcome. I'm going to give Sometimes Forever 4.5 stars out of 5. My one take on this album is that sure, you could see it as a sort of repeat of previous concepts introduced by the Soccer Mommy name, but at the same time, there's so many new ideas being presented here that I would find it difficult to not really at least appreciate this album from a creative standpoint, and the songwriting is just as great as it has always been. A very emotional performance from Soccer Mommy here, and generally speaking, I think that this is just a fantastic record and maybe the best album from Sophie Allison yet, and even a potential magnum opus, as strange as that is to say. I would definitely recommend this to people who are really into sort of dreamy or very catchy kind of pop music. Not necessarily the mainstream high charting kind of stuff, but that indie dream pop kind of sound. I would highly recommend it to those kind of people, and I would even recommend it to the music geek kind of type like myself, the type of people that, casually frequent websites like Rate Your Music and write reviews on there and things like that. This is definitely an album that appeals heavily to that crowd as well, though maybe not 100%, but still there is a lot of appeal towards people who are kind of looking for a more technical side to a simple record. So again, overall 4.5 stars out of 5. And with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I will see you guys in the next one.